Hey guys, John here with Edge Paintball. Today I'm going to show you how to completely disassemble and reassemble your Empire Mini GS. We get this question quite a bit because people want to either service their paintball gun or repair it or replace a part or something like that. So today I'm going to completely break down the Mini GS and kind of explain to you what to keep an eye out for as you're going through it and as you do maintenance on your Mini GS. So first things first, go ahead and unscrew a barrel. You're not going to need this at all. You definitely can clean it if you need to, but good to go there. So on the left side of your Mini GS is going to be a gauge, and you want to make sure it says 0. If it doesn't say 0, most likely the gauge is going to be either broken or there's still air trapped inside of your Mini GS. And if there's still air trapped inside of it, you want to turn the gun on, turn the eyes off, and dry fire the Mini GS. And if you have any questions, comment below on that one. I can help you out and walk you through that process. Cool deal. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to show your support by shopping our website, proedgepb.com. I'll put a link in the description. And of course, if you find it helpful, go ahead and hit like on our video. It really helps our videos grow and our channel grow, all that good stuff. So I do have the parts kit that comes with a brand new Mini GS. If you don't have that, I should know the Allen key sizes, but I don't offhand. But if you do have your mini kit that comes with it, just go ahead and grab both Allen keys out of it there. All right. And then first things first, I'd like to just take all the screws off of the outside of the gun for the grip so you can really get into it. So all of the rubber grip screws that come on here are the same, so you can put those all together. All right, so the front grip just slides off when you're done there, and then the back grips slide off as well. You're good to go. And you can use soap and water to clean these. You open them up there, just soap and water, and let them air dry. Okay, so inside of here you have your battery. So this would be how you would change your battery, is you would remove the front 2 screws here on both sides and then pull your 9-volt battery out and replace it. So very straightforward on that one. If you were to have a leak through your grip frame, the way you could confirm that it's leaking through this area here is by taking these grips off, the rear grips, and then you'll hear it leaking through the frame here. And I'll go into that a little bit further. Okay, so this is most just the grips on the outside, so if you really wanted to wipe down the gun, this is what I'd recommend. All right, next we're going to pull the body off of the frame. So here's the frame and here's the body. We're going to pull these 2 pieces apart. There are 3 screws, one here in the front, and then your 2 frame screws here. All right, so your frame screws are going to be different lengths. Your front screw is going to be there. There's your rear screw, and then this is your very front one here. So this screw is what this is going to look like. That's going to go on the front. Your middle screw, I should say, for a frame is going to be this short one here, and your long rear screw is very easy to tell because it has this little cylinder part that's not threaded. It goes in the back. This goes in the back of the gun to hold the bolt assembly into place. One mistake that people had a lot whenever the gun first come out, and I really haven't seen it much anymore, so I'm hoping I think they made a change on the board, is they would grab this screw here, the middle one, and they would replace it with like the feed neck screw or one from your kit that was too long. If you put one that's too long, this is about a 1/4 inch in length here, it's going to go into your gun through the body. There used to be a board that didn't have a hole in it that people would go through and puncture that board. I think they've fixed it since then, but so you just want to make sure that you put these back together correctly. So I would recommend to put these 3 screws in its second pile there. So you know that these are the outside, this is the frame, good to go there. Okay. What I do on this one is I like to take my fingers, pinch them on both sides while holding the gun, and just slide the gun straight up. You want to be careful with this because there's some metal prongs in there, and slide it straight out the top. Good to go there. Okay, so there's the top of the gun, and this is your bottom. All right, so if you were to, let's say, have a leak inside the grip frame, this is about as far as you would need to take it out because there's going to be a small O-ring on this tube here. This is your transfer tube. And I believe this is called the male transfer tube because it goes inside of the other one, which would be the female transfer tube. So you have a red O-ring on the top here. It's a very, very thin O-ring. I think they do come with, it doesn't look like your kit comes with it, but we do have those extra in stock, so give us a call or come by. And you have a black O-ring on the bottom here. There's a little bit of lubrication on this middle one here because it slides together, but the top one, it doesn't look like you need lube at all. And then if it was leaking through the bottom here, there's another O-ring on the bottom of the transfer tube here. This one typically is just missing if you've taken it apart. Very rarely does it go bad. But there is a small O-ring that sits inside. Right there, you can see it. That O-ring sits inside there. So if you had a leak inside your grip frame, most likely it's going to be either the red O-ring here near the top, the black O-ring near the bottom, or this thicker black O-ring at the very, very bottom. And the way these go together is just like this. Those pieces go in together, and then this O-ring sits at the very bottom, and it's clamped in place. So you can set that aside there. Good to go. Okay. All right, we can go through and go ahead and take the frame apart. You really don't have to do much further than this on the bottom of the frame, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. The only thing I'm not going to do is remove the trigger. So if you were to get an aftermarket trigger, you will have to punch this pin out. And the tip on that one is you need an actual punch or a small, if you have a small Phillips head screwdriver and a hammer, it works pretty good, but you just, a punch or something like a punch would be very easy. There's one side that's serrated on here, so it has grooves. That means it's basically pressed into this side of the gun, where this side is just sitting inside of there. So if that's not confusing at all, you want to make sure you punch from the non-serrated side towards the serrated side. And the purpose of this is the side that's going to have the grooves that's a little bit larger, that's locking into place. If you try pushing it to the incorrect way, it'll mess up the inside of it and this pin won't stay in place anymore. So on this one, for example, this non-serrated side, we want to punch it through that side. The pin's going to fall out and your trigger's going to come out. That's how you would clean around the trigger area. Most likely you don't need to do that. You can really take Q-tips and everything to get inside of here, but if you really do want to deep clean your trigger, bringing it to us, we can knock it out for you pretty quick. Okay, so next I'm going to take off the front, I guess battery housing and board housing screws. There are, I want to say 3, 4, 5, I think 5. So one of these on each side here. And these are little flat-headed screws there, so they stand out a little bit different. There's going to be 2 more in the front here, different Allen key size, I believe. Yep. So this size is going to be similar to your front grip. The size there, shape. Good to go there. And then you should have one more screw, which is going to hold your battery in place. And that one is kind of difficult. You really never have to do this, but it's going to be right here in the front grip. If you have a ball-headed Allen key, these work real well because you can get in here at an angle. All right. All right, so loosen that one up, and then everything should come apart just like that. So the screw that we just did is just like your rubber screws that come in the rubber grips, but it screws into the board right here in the front. So this is what holds the board actually to the metal frame here to hold it all in place, to give the board some stability. So again, I'm doing these in little batches so you know when you put it back together where they go. Go ahead and pull your battery out. You can go ahead and pull your battery out way sooner than that, and then this is your board. So this board, shockwave board I believe, or whatever, it's going to come out the back side here, just like that. And if you want to unplug it, get a firm, nice grip on those 2 wires, and kind of, if you can grip on the actual plug, grab that instead and pull that out. And this is how you would replace the board. Of course, you don't have to take it completely apart right here. Well, I mean, you can to really make sure you want to get in here and get it completely clean is what I would recommend. But yeah, so there's your front grip. Go ahead and clean it up, Q-tips. I don't ever replace the battery prongs inside of here, but if you did, they also slide out the right side where this hole is. You will press them out. They kind of lock into place, so you have to pry. They kind of clicked into place, so you need to pry them out. I believe with either needle nose or a small pick, you should be able to get them unlatched. It is kind of difficult at first, but just understand they're kind of pinched, or they're like kind of gripped into there. They lock into place, so you need to spread out this little metal tab here, spread it out, and then slide it out the right hand side. So you shouldn't have to damage it. If you're having troubles, again, bring it by. We can help you out with that. But that is your front board. Yeah. All right. So again, trigger, we're not gonna mess with that anymore. All right, so this is the mini GS regulator. Most people will adjust this and mess with this when you really don't have to. But what happens most common is they mess with the front knob here, or they try to adjust the set screw. You don't really ever need to mess with that. But if you do get it to this point, And I should take apart the regulator. We'll see, I might do it at the end of the video. It very rarely has a problem with it, but this is the most common issue you run into. All right, so as far as these pieces here, you want to make sure that the spring goes in first, then the little spacer goes in second, and what I recommend is go ahead and take your set screw and back it out all the way, just like that. Because you're gonna have to readjust it anyways. Otherwise the gun, for example, one of the big issues you'll run into is the gun leaks when you air it up. You turn your air on and this gauge just goes over 300, it goes psh, really crazy, and that's because the regulator has been adjusted incorrectly. All right, so once we've got the piece there, and you notice this side has a little nipple on one end and on the other one, you wanna make sure the nipple is faced towards the regulator, because that little hole right there is where the set screw goes inside of. So just set it down right there and screw it into place. And for example, if the gun was together right now, what we would do is we would screw the air tank on and we would turn it on, assuming the whole gun is together. Even though this regulator is unscrewed all the way, when I turn the air on, nothing's gonna happen. The air is just gonna sit inside of here. And then what we'll do is we'll take our Allen key and we'll slowly screw this in, and you'll slowly see the gauge go up, and you wanna stop at 200. So let me say that one more time. So if you were to accidentally take this apart and adjust it, you're not sure what you're doing, or your gun is just venting like crazy when you air it up because you've taken this apart and you're not sure what you're doing, you want to go ahead and turn the regulator set screw all the way out, put your air tank into it with air inside of it, turn the air on by flipping the lever here, and you're gonna sit just like this. Then you'll take your Allen key and you'll slowly screw the set screw in as this pressure slowly goes up to 200. If for some reason it is still spiking, then most likely you have turned maybe this knob in too far. What you want to do on this knob is just turn it until you feel a little resistance. Some of the older minis are a little more finicky. The new ones, you don't really have that problem. So this is the Empire Mini GS with the 2-piece 14-inch barrel. If you have like an invert mini or a mini GS, maybe just the 1-piece barrel, you might run into the regulator problem. So what you would want to do is when you put it back together, you just want to take this knob and screw it until you feel a little resistance, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to crank down on it. By cranking down on it, you're actually pressing the piston inside and overpressurizing the regulator. So put your air tank in, slowly screw this until it stops. Then you'll adjust the front screw here until you see 200 PSI, and then you'll just stop. Everything is kind of locked into place once it's under pressure. It should never adjust itself. It should be good to go. If you have questions about this further than this, please message me. Message us on social media at Edge Paintball, or give us a call or comment below, and I'll answer all your questions for you. Okay, so this is your, I'm just gonna do your basic regulator disassembly right there. Those 3 pieces there for now. Okay, so that's pretty much your body, or that's pretty much your frame. So that's pretty much just everything on your frame except for the actual regulator itself. Let's set that aside. All right, so this, you've got a lot more moving parts up here. First we're gonna do your detents. So for example, so this part is your body, so this has a lot more moving parts. If you were having issues with paintballs double feeding or rolling out the end of the barrel, your ball detent is gonna be the main culprit for that one. What that is gonna be this little piece here. Unscrew these. If you've lost these, we do sell different colors on our website, proedgepp.com, for replacements. You're gonna do both sides. And the most common problem you'll have here is either A, you've lost one of them or both of them, because they do kind of loosen up. So you wanna make sure you tighten those up over time. But also sometimes they'll get a lot of gunk and dirt in here, and this detent, you can see it right there, it's spring loaded right now, but whenever it's not, it'll get stuck like that. Well, it defeats the whole purpose. The whole idea is these sit inside the gun like this, and a paintball goes behind them, and this holds it into place. And then once the bolt fires, it pushes it through, because there are spring loaded here, it pushes the ball through and another one loads behind it. But if these are pressed like this already, it's just allowing paintballs to roll it in the barrel. So you want to go ahead and replace. You typically can get this plastic piece out with a little work, put some rubbing alcohol on it, and let it wear out over time, and you can pull the plastic out and just get a new detent. But if for some reason, if you can't, this is damaged, you can buy a whole new assembly there. So it's just called your Mini GS ball detent. Okay, good to go there. Next thing is your bolt assembly. So you just want to, now that there's no set screw, that long screw here, there's no screw holding in place, you want to go ahead and pull the bolt out. You can kind of be stuck sometimes. This is your bolt, like your bolt assembly, and then you actually have your bolt here. This is your bolt and bolt spring. So this is like your bolt guide. That's what I should have called it. And I'll go further in that one there, okay? So your spring can go on backwards. One side it snaps on, one side it does not. You want it to snap on so it doesn't fall off like that. Put it like this one, it falls off. So the way to test it is make sure it's actually snapped on. Good to go there. If you don't do it correctly, sometimes you'll have broken paint inside the breech. Sometimes the bolt will get stuck. It just won't glide as easy, and you'll see more wear and tear on the bolt. If you are having paintballs get jammed in the front of the gun, in front of your Mini, you want to check, or let's say your bolt is getting stuck, you physically see it here inside of the breech. Going forward, it kind of gets stuck halfway. Sometimes you want to replace the front bolt tip here, the face of it, and you do have extras in your kit. So go ahead and take that off with your fingers, small pliers. You can use your teeth. It's pretty easy. Just clicks into place. Just like that. And it's got a little lip in there. And you want to wipe it down real well. Put it back into place. There you go. You do want to put grease on these two O-rings here. Not so much on the actual bolt itself, but a little bit of grease on the O-rings when you're cleaning it. And again, your bolt spring, you want it to snap on place here. Good to go. Okay. So this is your bolt guide. This is what would control if you have a small leak down the barrel. So if you put your ear up kind of the side of your gun and you can actually hear air coming out the end of your barrel, it is most likely going to be the inside pieces on here. A lot of these O-rings, these front O-rings here, you can take off and the gun will not leak. So because there's not air stored behind them when the gun's not fired. So that is not usually a problem. So most likely it's going to be just what's called a poppet on the inside of here. If you get a lot of drag on the bolt, it doesn't move forward and backwards very easily. It's going to be these three O-rings here. This back one here is just a bumper, so you don't really need to replace that one. That one is just keep the two pieces of metal from smashing against each other. But these three here, and you've got to make sure these are the right size, otherwise it's going to be not big enough or too big, you're going to get drag, or it's not going to seal up well enough, you're not going to get your velocity, or you get real inconsistent velocity. Okay, so this is where you adjust your velocity actually here in the back. So this is plus or minus. We're going to go ahead and remove this. And you don't ever want to take this velocity adjuster out when there's air on your gun. So if your whole gun was assembled and you're trying to remove this because you have a small leak, don't do it with your air on because all your air will come out the back. So that's your small velocity adjuster there. If you have a small leak around the back of this cap, like on the inside, it's going to be this O-ring on the outside there, but very rarely is that the case. And then you have your poppet inside of here. Some people say don't use an Allen key. You don't want to use anything sharp, and I'm pressing right in the middle of it. You can use like a saw, like a pen or something that's real soft. You just don't want to damage the inside of this part here, otherwise you have to replace this bolt guide. So just press right in the middle of it, and this piece will come right out. That is called your poppet. So the poppet face is replaceable. You can buy just that by itself. The O-ring here is replaceable. Notice it is clear, so it is a very specific O-ring. You typically cannot put a different material O-ring on this poppet and expect it to work well. It's just not going to work. And of course you have your poppet spring that just slides into place. That just locks in. Good to go there. So if you have a leak down the barrel, what's most likely happen is either this piece of plastic here is actually damaged, and so this seals against the metal inside of here around the edge of it. So if the edge is damaged for any reason, either debris or something like that because you haven't cleaned your gun in a long time, it will leak through that and it won't seal up. The worst case is whenever the bolt guide is damaged on the inside. The way you'll know that is if you've replaced the poppet completely and you've cleaned everything real well and it still leaks to the front, most likely it's going to be the bolt guide that needs to be replaced. It's like $30, $40, $50 maybe depending on the price of where you're shopping from. But yeah, so there's your bolt guide and then your poppet. Good to go. You can buy the poppet assembly, of course, by itself, the whole assembly there. Okay. All right, next is we're going to remove the solenoid. It's going to be this one small plug here. You're going to grab the two wires firmly and work back and forth. I've never had the wires pull out, but don't yank on them quickly. You just want to make sure you grab them, kind of wiggle them back and forth, and then your solenoid is going to unscrew here. There you go. So if you were to replace the solenoid, of course you don't have to take it completely apart like this, but this is what you would replace, just solenoid here. And then if you want to service the solenoid, let's say when you turn your gun on and you're trying to dry fire, it doesn't shoot the first 50 shots or 20 shots. You kind of have to shoot it until to get going. Most likely the solenoid is either going bad or the solenoid needs to be serviced, or you don't have enough airflow. But assuming you have enough airflow and the gun is working fine, most likely the solenoid just needs to be serviced. The way you would do that is these three screws here on the front. Sometimes they're Allen head, sometimes they're Phillips head, depending on what year model you have. You'll pull that out. There's a small cylinder inside. You want to wipe it down real well, clean the inside with a Q-tip, and then put it all back together. That's what we do typically. I don't usually put any oil or anything on it or lube, and it usually works good for a while after that. Sometimes it just has a bunch of gunk in there. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Plug it, put it back together, and then that's the case. If it still does it after you service and clean it, just replace the solenoid. I think they're like $30 or $40. Very rarely do you ever have to replace that part though. Okay, next is we're gonna go in and if let's say you're pulling the trigger and the gun is not firing and the electronics are not working correctly or the eyes aren't working correctly, you're gonna have to replace the eye board or the trigger board, but mainly the eye board is what it would be called. It's all one board here and everything plugs into it. So it can cause quite a few problems. If your eyes aren't working or if your micro switch has died for some reason or it's got damaged, that can cause a lot of problems. So you have two different things that work on here. So what you'll do is these screws here, you want to take apart. All right, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws. I loosen them up, shake it out a little bit. Get this one out. Again, I'm going to put them all together so that way I know which ones go together. Some of these screws are similar in size, so I like to keep them all together so that way I know where each one goes. So you have a aluminum piece here in the middle of it, so you're going to pull that right off the top. Get to go there. It's just metal, no O-rings, no nothing on there. Here you want to clean that real well, just wipe it down. Okay, so this part here is a little complicated, but you have your gasket. That's your big O-ring piece here. Very rarely have I ever had to replace that unless you've taken it apart and lost it or damaged it. Very rarely you have to replace that at all, but that does most of the sealing between the body and the frame. That's where most of the air is. And then of course you have your eye board or your micro switch board here. So the small piece of plastic that's right here, real small, you can kind of see it, it's clear. I forgot the actual name of it, but it is extremely important. And if you take this gun apart and you forget about that and you're flailing around and that falls out, you're not going to remember to check most likely. So you want to make sure that that is always intact and it goes in a certain way. You want the open hole, like the hole facing up. So it's almost like I want to say almost like a cone or like a cup, a small cup, I guess you could say, but it's a restrictor. It restricts the airflow going through the gun, and it sits up. So the cup is going to be open facing up where you're holding the gun upside down like this, and it just slides into place. There is an extra one inside your kit typically, so if you lose that one, replace that. The way you'll know you lost that is if, let's say you're breaking paint all of a sudden, and the gun sounds really airy, like psh, 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 when you're firing it, typically this piece is missing or it's completely gone away. Sometimes they will disintegrate over time, but very rarely is that the case. Typically, you've taken the gun apart or somebody has and they've lost that piece. You put the whole gun back together and it shoots perfectly fine. Like as far as it functions, the way it feels, it turns on, airs up, no leaks. But when you fire it, it sounds completely different. And that is the main telltale sign that you forgot to put that piece in. So usually my rule of thumb is don't touch it, leave it in place. Just make sure my gun, when I'm taking it apart, is always held just like this. Keep a close eye on it. Okay, so this is going to be your eye board. We're going to go remove that. The best way I like to do it is I like to grab the micro switch here and just kind of wobble it back and forth. And I'm not going to be real forceful. If there's a lot of gunk in here, this can be difficult. So you can kind of grab the front part here and the switch at the same time, like this, and kind of work it back and forth. And you want to make sure you pull it straight up and out. All right, that's going to be your eye board. We'll go over that in a second. Okay, so this part here, this is when you get most of your gunk. Is going to be inside these little slots right here. So between the detent and this part here, you'll see all kinds of dirt and debris and paint and everything right here. So you can take a small pick or small Allen key and clean all of this out really well. And one thing I'll do is I'll go to the field or our fill station and I'll actually take the air fill valve or the quick disconnect that actually connects to your air tank, and I'll put it inside of here, if you have a small home compressor, and just blow this air out, or blow this area here out completely. The small Q-tip works good, but even that's kind of big for the area. But if you blow it out, you get all the debris out of there, then take a small pick and clean all of that out there. So it'll be your detent area, all your eye area, all that good stuff there. Okay, so this is going to be your eye board. If you do take this out and you see a lot of debris or a lot of paint and corrosion on these eyes and you're having eye issues, most likely this piece needs to be replaced. One way that you can test this without putting it all back together is, assuming your frame is still together and your board is, you can actually just take this board and click it into place on top and it'll just sit like just like this. So it'll be something like this one. Take your board, plug it in, take your battery harness, plug it in, and you can actually plug everything together and you can stick your finger in here and see if the eyes are working correctly based on the light of your gun. If it doesn't react at all once you have it all back together, if it doesn't react at all when you pull the trigger or anything, then you know the eye board has gone bad. So again, these are $20 to $30. The prices change because of materials cost, so you won't have consistent price on these. But this little piece here can be wiped down real well. You don't have to put the gun completely back together to test it. If you have questions about that, comment below or give me a call or give our store a call. All of our guys can help you out with that. Plug it into place, see if it works. If it doesn't work, no need to put the gun back completely back together. Order a new board and you're good to go. Yeah, so here's your micro switch, your eyes. Again, just wipe this down. You can do rubbing alcohol on a soft rag. You want to be real gentle with these metal prongs here because they will, or metal sensors, because they will actually bend pretty easy. If you put them in your bag or something like that, even if you order these online, sometimes they'll come bent. So just go to your local pro shop, see if they have some in stock. Good to go there. And you wipe everything down real well. So this one actually does have that hole that I was referring to when we first opened up, or when we first started talking about it. Beforehand, the screw would just go straight into the eye board, and it would puncture this right here. So if you look, they've actually redesigned it. Those lines used to go straight across, and the screw would go straight to the middle of it, and it would cause damage. But now the new ones have a new hole, which is nice. So if your board has a hole in it, it's one of the newer ones. If it doesn't, then it's one of the original Mini GSs or older Mini. Good to go. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think anything else I might have forgot here. That is your body, your feed neck. Real quick, I'll show you that one. This one's pretty straightforward. Of course, it's one Allen key here on the top and one on the bottom, and we'll just loosen it up. You have your lever, you have your brass piece that the screw screws into, you have your long screw and your O-ring there that keeps it from routing loose. This is the screw I was talking about. Some people would get that mixed up with that one, those two, and then they would put this screw directly through the frame, through the body. You don't want to do that, so just keep those separately. But it does have an O-ring on it, so it kind of tells you this one's different. And if you want to take apart your feed neck, loosen this up here. This is if you're going to replace your feed neck with an aftermarket or something like that, or just clean it real well. This bottom screw here. Again, this screw is even closer in size. Make sure you keep them separate. So the feed neck screw goes there. So I'll show you the different links. So the left one here, is going to be your correct frame screw. This is going to be your bottom feed neck screw. That's going to be your top feed neck screw. Just keep these separate. You won't run into any problems. And of course the feed neck just kind of pulls off once you have it loose, and you clean it off, wipe it down real well. Good to go. This piece in here, this collar, is kind of difficult to get out. So I would definitely recommend take it to your local pro shop. And I believe they're threaded into place nowadays, but I think they're Loctite in place, so very, very hard to get out. But if you want to put it back together, it just snaps on. And put your screws back together. All right, so I'm coming back to the regulator here. I know people are going to ask me to go through this. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a pick and two drivers. And so you're going to need a 3mm driver, a 1/2 inch driver, and then just a standard pick. And first thing you're going to have to do is on the right side of the frame here, go ahead and unscrew the screw here. This is your lever screw. And I put your finger on top of it because it is kind of spring loaded in there. So unscrew it, and it'll kind of stop because it gets stuck. So just pull it out, and then it's under spring tension. So that's why you kind of have to pull it out a little bit. Your lever is going to come out there, and then you have a small piece of metal with a spring on the bottom of it. I'm just going to kind of, hopefully this falls out. There we go, just like that. So you have your lever piece and then a small spring that can fall out. So make sure you be careful with that. There you go. Okay, so inside of here, we will need to take our 1/2 inch driver and unscrew the brass piece inside. That will fall out. From there, we want to take our pick, and we're basically going to, or an Allen key will actually work. You're going to put it inside of the bottom here and press it towards the back. And you want movement to happen on the inside here. You can use the bent side as well to kind of get in there. There you go. And once you kind of get it loose and it breaks loose, it should fall out. Just like that. And then inside here, you'll need your 3mm driver. All the way in the bottom. And you're going to unscrew it. If you don't hold the brass piece here, if you don't hold this at the same time, then it will not come apart. So I'm going to put my hand in the front here and I'm going to unscrew here. And sometimes it can be a pain. There you go. But if you kind of go fast, you can get it to loosen up. So the reason why you would, real reason why you would take this completely apart is if you have a regulator that is creeping. What that means is that gauge on the side of the gun is slowly increasing its pressure as you know, as it's aired up. Okay. There we go. So you have a small threaded piece on the inside there. And then you will have a small clear regulator seat inside as well. See if I can get that to come out. This little piece here. So this is going to be the culprit here. That little clear piece. That's going to be the culprit there if your regulator is creeping. And then the bottom piece should push out with a spring on it. That is your regulator. So 2 O-rings on there. They do have grease on them. I would just wipe them down and re-grease them with the grease inside your kit. If you were having creeping, you want to replace this here regulator seat. And the way that's going to work is you want to make sure you don't get them mixed up, because it's very hard to tell if one is damaged. But you want to make sure you just replace that. And the way it goes in, let's see if I can show you easily. The way it goes in, because one side is flat, and one side is not. I believe it's concave. Is that the word I'm looking for here? Good to go. And you want the pin to go through just like that to the concave side. Like that there. So as it goes together, it's going to sit just like this inside. There's a spring on there. So, but the concave side is facing away from the brass piece. So go into here inside your gun. Hope I had it right the first time. So the brass piece is going to stay like that. Then you're going to have the pin inside, and then you'll have the reg seat. Again, the flat side of the reg seat will be facing the brass piece. You want to replace that if you have any creeping, slowly creep of your regulator here. You want to replace this here. And of course it won't move around, but once inside the gun, you're good to go. But that's how it will screw together. Good to go. Again, be careful losing those. And then you have your internal pieces here. If you're having any leaking through the regulator, these are all the O-rings that I'd recommend to replace. You have your small pin. The round side of the pin goes towards the middle, towards the slot, not the other way around. So not that way. Hopefully you can see that. The round piece goes to the middle. And then each one of these O-rings will need to be changed and relubricated whenever you put it back in. There you go. So I'm going to go and try to put this back together. So I'm going to put my brass piece and spring in first. I didn't wipe them down, so I'm not going to relube them. And that's backwards. So I actually had it backwards earlier, sorry. The brass piece is going to go in the front, just like that. And then we're going to take our regulator seat, concave facing outwards, on our screw here. Take my 3mm driver, just like that. And I'm going to go all the way inside the regulator. And you don't want to over tighten this because that piece is extremely small and fragile. So you just want to tighten it up until you see the brass piece moving at the same time as I'm turning it. Just kind of hold in place and just snug it up there. All right, so to put the brass piece back in, you want to put the small pin in just slightly, just like that. If you push it in too far, it's not going to work and it'll be in your way. So you want to go ahead and make sure that the slot is facing up and the pin is facing towards the back of the gun. So this is going to be the just like this, if that makes sense. So the pin needs to be towards the back of the gun to the threads. You can slowly drop this into place, just like that. And you can see it from the top, it'll line up. Take your pick or Allen key, line it up. Next you want to take this little triangle looking piece and you want to drop that in. You want the flat side to be towards the brass. So I'm going to drop that in there. And then to put the lever on, if you put the lever like this, it's got a lot of spring tension against it. So you're going to make sure you flip the lever over. Much easier that way. Drop it in. And the reason why I'm doing the lever now is because it locks everything into place. I don't have to worry about it moving. Good to go. And then you want to go ahead and take the brass piece here, drop it on the top. And you can kind of get it started with your fingers. That works real well to get it threaded in. And then you can go ahead and use your driver here. Drive it in. Good to go. The way to correctly make sure you have it in is you should see some spring tension against the lever. If it flips back like this, then you've done it correctly. If it does not and it flops around, you need to make sure you go through and lube it up again. Make sure you put it in correctly. Pretty good to go. And again, if you want to put the front cap back on, it goes spring, then spacer with nipple facing towards the gauge, and then your cap. And once you put the whole gun back together, you will have to reset the regulator. And the way you're going to do that is this set screw is unscrewed all the way. Go ahead and air it up, turn the lever on. That way air is sitting here, and then you slowly screw in this Allen key set screw here until you reach 200 psi. If you go higher, it will overpressurize the gun, but there's really no way. You can kind of do flush on here as a good starting point, but not really. I would recommend just to do it with air on it. There's really no way to know if the set screw is set right without actually airing it up. So if you have to wait till you get more air, go ahead and do that. But yeah, I'm sure that might be a little confusing. If you have any questions at all, comment below. Yeah, if I missed anything, let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully that helps everybody out. Thanks, guys.